the man pulls out a photo of his wife and child. Hoping the American officer will spare him, the officer knocks the photo away and orders him to kneel on the ground to await execution. Then Don pulls out a pistol from his chest and hands it to the rookie, ordering him to kill the prisoner of war. Don plans to toughen Norman up and help him grow quickly on the battlefield. But Norman, with a conscience, can't bear it and refuses to execute the order, citing his unwillingness to kill prisoners. Angered, Don yanks Norman over. Treating prisoners well is for those who are humane, not for murderers who kill without blinking. The moment they picked up guns and started invading, they should have been prepared to be killed if defeated. Seeing Norman nervously unable to act, Don grabs his hair and then hugs him tightly from behind. Don forcefully places the gun in Norman's hand, cocks it, and points it at the prisoner. Don presses Norman's head to look forward, while Norman tries to escape by kicking the ground. The prisoner also weeps and begs for mercy. Amid the jeers of the surrounding veterans, Norman is forced to fire the shot. To the watching veterans, this is nothing new. They are already numb to war. In their eyes, Norman's mercy is foolish, as it could kill more comrades in arms. Yet, this is a necessary step for Norman's growth. Not long ago, Norman spotted a German soldier approaching with a Panzerfaust, ready to attack the tank, but realizing the enemy was just a teenager, Norman didn't pull the trigger, leading to the enemy directly attacking the lead tank. Though the enemy was killed, comrades died in the resulting explosion, which is why Don is pushing Norman to quickly become desensitized to killing. Mercy towards enemies is cruelty towards comrades. After a brief respite, 3 tanks continue towards the small town. On their way, they see the German army devastated. Starving civilians scavenge for food. Unable to afford bread costing 500,000 marks, they resort to eating the rotting carcasses of war horses. Outside the town, corpses swaying in the wind hang because they refuse to help the German army resist the Allies. These are the handiworks of the SS. Tanks roll over the bodies on the ground as the troops quickly enter the German-occupied town, soldiers ready with their guns. Don stops the tank and is about to ask an old man for directions, but as the old man raises his cane to point the way, a German sniper immediately shoots him in the head. A battle erupts, and the soldiers quickly duck down. Don grabs a machine gun and opens fire on a building, followed by a tank shell. The remaining German soldiers try to resist from the rubble, but the combined firepower of the Allied infantry and tanks quickly overpowers them. The team continues to clear the way, soon encountering a bunker machine gun ambush. The tank quickly lowers its barrel and fires a shell, taking out the ambushers. As the tank turns a corner, it's targeted by an anti-tank gun, but luckily, the shell just grazes by. Don quickly orders the turret to turn left, and with one shot, the German soldiers are set ablaze and mowed down by the tank's machine gun. The battle ends quickly, and a middle-aged man surrenders, waving a white flag. Don orders to shoot at any sign of trouble, and the gunner loads a high-explosive shell, ready for anything, but out come a group of teenagers. Among them, an SS officer tries to surrender, but someone points out that he was responsible for the hanging outside the town. Don immediately orders his capture and execution. The town briefly experiences peace. Don is pleased with Norman's performance in the fight. While they talk, Don notices a German woman sneaking glances at him from upstairs. Don and Norman burst into the woman's home. Ignoring the woman's pleas, Don pulls out a young girl and pulls out some eggs for her to cook. Don strips to wash, while Norman, tempted, starts playing the piano. The beautiful piano music catches Emma's attention, and she approaches to turn the music sheets for Norman. As they sing and play, they develop an attraction, deciding to make Norman a man. Don orders him to take Emma into the room, or he will do it himself. Hearing this, Emma willingly pulls Norman inside. Norman engages Emma in conversation, earnestly spouting nonsense while Emma plays along, pretending not to know. Emma smiled sweetly and love came quietly. This part, apparently not a favorite among friends, is skipped. 3.5 minutes later, Emma steps out of the room first, and Norman sits down, refreshed. They prepare to enjoy lunch, but just then, Don's comrade bursts in. He starts to harass Emma, but Don stops him from going further. They take out their anger on Norman. The men begin to provoke constantly, picking up food from Emma's plate, licking it, and then putting it back. Their hatred for the German army now transfers to the civilians. Emma cries from being bullied, and Don swaps his food with hers. During lunch, The comrade starts describing disgusting war scenes to vent his repressed emotions. As it gets more repulsive, Don slams the table in anger and stops him, but as Don is about to sit down and continue eating, a soldier brings in a superior's order. Don immediately leads everyone to prepare for retreat. Norman says goodbye to his 3-minute 30-second girlfriend, only to be dragged away by his comrade. The new mission is to head to the next town for support. The soldiers start refueling and restocking the tanks with ammunition. Suddenly, German artillery shells start falling. Norman quickly hides under the tank. The bombardment lasts for a minute and a half, and he suddenly sees Emma's house hit. Norman desperately tries to dig through the rubble to save his brief love, but Emma is already gone. A comrade grabs Norman, telling him to get back to the tank. Norman can't contain his anger and starts arguing with his comrade. But this is yet another harsh lesson of war. This is the brutal reality of war. After venting, Norman is dragged back to the tank. He leans against the tank and weeps, then gathers himself and continues on. Don, seeing Norman's state, points to the city with rising smoke in the distance. This is war. People die every day. We don't have personal lives until the war ends. We either die or survive until the war's end. Many sacrifice, but we have no other choice. The tank continues moving forward, but suddenly the last tank is flipped over by a German ambush. The 3 Shermans quickly reverse and look for the German tank. Don orders a smoke grenade to be fired, and the 3 Shermans start concentrating their fire, but retreat seems impossible. As the smoke clears, the roaring engine of the Tiger Eye becomes visible. Don orders the Shermans to face it head-on. The Tiger Eye, known for taking on 10 at a time, moves out from hiding. Sherman was the first to open fire, hitting Tiger Eye's airspace steadily. The 3 Shermans fire frequently, but they can't do any damage to Tiger Eye. Its armor sparks, but it steadily advances towards the Shermans. One Sherman is destroyed with a single shot, and another is flung away with the next shot. Don calmly orders a flanking maneuver and then quickly fires. The Tiger Eye turns its turret and destroys the 3rd Sherman. The sacrifice of comrades gives Don time to maneuver behind. The Tiger Eye realizes the enemy's plan, starts reversing slowly, and begins firing with its machine gun. Then, it lands a shot on the Sherman's side. Luckily, the logs tied to the Sherman absorb some of the impact, but its turret is damaged. The 2 tanks begin a circling duel. At a critical moment, the Sherman's agility saves them. Don finally finds the Tiger Eye's weak rear armor and destroys the once invincible tank. The escaping Germans are killed by Don. Norman shoots through the German tank commander, but soon, Don discovers the radio is malfunctioning. After a brief respite, the Sherman continues on its way, but it doesn't get far before hitting an anti-tank mine, breaking its tracks. They can only repair the tank on the spot, but unfortunately, an SS battalion approaches. The crew suggests hiding in the woods and letting the Germans pass, but Don decides to stand and fight with the tank. To him, the tank is home. Reluctantly, the crew stays to fight together. They use German corpses to camouflage the tank, preparing to surprise the enemy. The men place the corpses on the tank and douse them with gasoline, then ignite the bodies to disguise the tank as a wreck. The other crew members quickly seal the hatch and hastily organize their weapons and ammunition, placing grenades within easy reach. Everything is ready as they wait for the German troops to arrive. An entire battalion of SS troops marches in step, singing a loud military song as they approach the immobilized tank. The German officer ordered a separate search for survivors. No one noticed the enemy hiding in the tanks. Inside, the soldiers grip their grenades, ready to give the Germans an explosive surprise. As a German soldier bends down and just opens the hatch, he is instantly shot dead, and the crew members throw a volley of grenades, causing the Germans to fall to the ground. Ablaze, the gunner quickly aims and fires a shell directly at a German vehicle, then fires another to destroy their heavy weapons. The Germans begin moving toward the fields, attempting to flank the Sherman tank, which quickly rotates its turret and fires tracer rounds, relentlessly cutting down the retreating Germans. Then, a white phosphorus shell is loaded into the tank, and at Don's command, it ignites the building where the Germans are hiding. The Germans trying to escape the flames are mowed down by machine gun fire, suffering losses. The Germans quickly set up machine guns and start a barrage of fire at the tank, but its frontal armor withstands the assault. Don calmly directs the turret to be rotated and destroys the newly set up machine gun, followed by a barrage of fire. But with ammunition running low, Don can only open the hatch and throw out a smoke grenade for cover. With the crew's protection, they disassemble the exterior machine gun. Seizing the opportunity, Don picks up the stored ammunition, picks up a rifle, kills approaching enemies, and drags them into the tank to finish them off with a knife, then successfully closes the hatch. Soon, the Germans bring a Panzerfaust and try to pierce the tank from the side and rear, but the first shot has no effect. The second shot successfully penetrates the tank, instantly knocking down the loader, but the fight must continue. Norman and the others continue firing the machine gun, but their ammunition quickly runs out. They decide to use the tank as cover and engage in a desperate fight with the Germans. One crew member tries to pass a grenade to Don but is blown up the moment he shows his head. A lurking German sniper in the darkness also targets Don's head, but he only hits Don's arms, not delivering a fatal shot. Savoring the thrill of the hunt, after being shot several times, Don struggles back into the tank, where only he and Norman remain. Don had promised to bring them home alive, but in the end, they all died on the battlefield. Don tells Norman there is a secret hatch under the tank through which he can escape. The Germans forcefully open the hatch and throw in 2 grenades. Norman quickly escapes from the tank through the secret door. As the 2 explosions go off, he can only use his hands to dig for cover and then anxiously lies in the pit. He's the last of Don's squad, but soon a German of the same age discovers him. Don, pale-faced, instinctively raises his hands, but unexpectedly, the German doesn't make a sound, and Don thus escapes a close call. Perhaps without the war, they might have been friends. Hours later, once sure the Germans have left, Norman cautiously crawls back into the tank. Don is completely dead. Norman removes his coat to cover him. In the end, only Norman survives from the entire tank crew. With that, the movie comes to an end.